Hello and welcome to the Emperor's Rejects, your podcast about all things 40K. I'm your host Kuyo with your co-host
Foster, y'all.
And Shuki.
All right. We have an action-packed episode today. We're going to be talking about our events and our adventures in San Antonio at the Alamo GT.
I wasn't there. I look forward to hearing about how horribly they were massacred. It'll be great.
And we have a lot to talk about chaos and what we think the future of 40K is going to be after we got touched by spindly bits.
It's going to be dark and terrifying.
Oh, dramatic pause. All right, for you who are not aware, the Alamo GT was a 86-player major down here in San Antonio, Texas. Great event, 5-round event. ITC rules, and me and Foster participated in it.
Yes, we did. It was a great tournament. Had a lot of great players there. We learned a lot at this tournament, too.
Yeah, this was actually our this is actually our first major event, besides doing a little RTT, so first 2 there.
Yeah, one of the things I learned, wear good shoes.
Yes, the back pain was real.
Yeah. I'm glad I did not wear my flip-flops.
All right, so we're going to get into our games. Foster, you want to start off with what you were taking and your first round?
I'll start with what I'm taking, but do you really want me to have to relive my nightmare of a first round?
Yes.
Fair enough.
We've got to do it for content.
Right. So I was playing pure Custodes in this past tournament. Played Trajan Valoris with a shield captain, 3 3-man guardian squads with 2 swords and shields and 1 spear. I then played a secondary detachment with another shield captain on Dawn Eagle jet bike with a Vexilla and 2 warden squads, 1 with 5-man spears, 1 with 9-man axes. Been practicing with this list for a while. It worked out fairly well, all things considered. But I will tell you this, my first round opponent, great guy. It's fantastic. Could not have asked for a better first round opponent to get me into a GT. But he did do very naughty things to me with Chaos, and I don't think I'll ever be the same again.
Do you remember exactly what unit of his caused you the most problems?
You know, to be honest with you, it was actually a combination of units. It wasn't just one thing. It was the overall feel of things. He brought in a Butcher Cannon array, Deradeo. He brought in C-Beam, Rapier, platforms as the Purge. He brought in Black Legion with Abaddon and 9 Terminators in the backfield. He brought in a group of Black Legion chain gun or Reaper chain cannon, sorry. Havocs. He brought in a Dread. And at first I thought, man, this looks pretty random. And then I got punched in the face a lot.
It was the old rope-a-dope, or one would say an Alpha Legion tactic.
Right. I got hit with the Chain Lord. Literally just dishing out mortal wounds and just wiping people's HP down to nothing for 93 points. Funny thing was, I ended up killing him. He was like, oh, well, he actually rolled low for his damage.
The funny part was, I told you about the Chain Lord. We're actually going to do a Tactica about that, and you still fell for the Chain Lord.
It wasn't that I fell for the Chain Lord. It's just that the Chain Lord got slingshot upon me. Yeah, I was trying to keep my distance from him, but you can't when he flies that fast.
True.
I will say this: as a Space Wolves and Custodes player, I am envious of that damage output on, I think, a 93-point model.
Yeah, he's very nice and very efficient for what he does.
Yeah, but like I said, overall, it was a combination of things. I can see a lot of people playing the Purge from here on out. It is a fantastic warband trait. It allows you those rerolls on wounded models. Very good stuff, especially with all the firepower he was bringing to bear. Slanesh, I think we talked about this in our last podcast. Slanesh Reaper chain cannons, double tapping with Death to the False Emperor is a pretty hefty damage dealer there.
Yeah.
What would you change that match if you could have?
To be honest with you,
Custodes.
yeah. I will say this, because this is going to be one of the big things from across the board, is just I love my golden melee monsters, but there are two things that I'm noticing with them right now that are not make them kind of a mid tier army. One, you shoot them a lot, and just weighted dice is going to kill them. Doesn't matter if they've got a 2 up or they've got a 3 up invuln save. Just the weight of dice will kill them eventually. And the second is that it is, once you have committed to something, it is super hard, especially the way that I'm playing them right now, to get them back to where you need them to be. That's actually going to be a theme for this tournament. I learned in this match with my first opponent that when he dropped down Abaddon and his 9-man Terminator squad, I actually reacted to that, and I realized this was a mistake on my part. I reacted by dropping down my wardens right next to him, and I should have dropped my wardens in his back.
Mm.
That was a big mistake on my part. I should have just let Abaddon and his boys have the backfield and then run away from him with the rest of the groups and just swept the front. But that's a learning experience. You learn from what you're doing.
Very true.
Yeah. So I think that in the future, just kind of not get baited by the big blob of death in the back. So.
All right. Well, let's get on to my games. I brought my Imperial Guard with a Knight Ally, Astra Militarum, or actually now I guess I am a Imperium player.
Filthy Imperial soup.
I know, filthy Imperial soup. I'm just so whack. I can't help it. My list comprised of company commanders, Strachan, 5 10-man guard squads. One thing they needed was their faith in the Emperor. I was testing out something different. I took a 5-man Scion squad with 2 plasmas. My other HQs were a Scion Prime, and I also took a
Are you thinking Manticores?
No, there we go. I also took a Primary Psyker. So the funny part was the last minute additions to that list were the Primary Psyker and the Scions. I had been talking about how I wanted to incorporate that, but hadn't got any testing with it. So I was going to my first major event, not testing my list. Smart kids. Smart.
I too hear not studying and doing your homework gets you straight A's.
That's what I've heard.
I also had a 8-man Bulgren squad, a Master of Ordnance, my 3 Manticores because they're a staple in any guard list I do. I took a Vulture, took the Assassin spotting ability, and a Crusader with the First Knight and the Headsman Mark, which you will see a lot of these, well, in the future, and you'll hear a lot about them in our battle reports. Pretty much every match that I fought, someone had a Crass Knight with this configuration.
It's because it's the new hotness. They nerfed the Castellan, and they made it to where it's easier to wound knights, so you might as well be getting all that damage out when you can.
Yeah, so House Raven is out, Crass is in.
And why is that?
So they decided to up the cost of the Raven specific house strat to 3 points, and now they added 100 points onto the Castellan. So the old combo of having the Castellan rerolling all his ones to hit, rerolling all his ones to wound, and rerolling all his ones to damage just seems a little bit too expensive for most people. So they're cutting the cost and just getting a Crass Knight where you don't have to You don't have to support him with CPs that way, and you also don't have to spend an extra 200 or so points.
Well, and you also forgot that they also made it to where rotate ion shields. It caps out at a 4++ now. No more can you get a storm shielded knight.
Yeah. So now they're like, oh, I don't have to pay. I don't have to worry about paying. Well, getting the relic. Not relic. Getting the warlord trait that gives me a 4+. I'll just pay 1 on the crash knight and not worry about it.
Exactly. And that, like I said, it opens you up for a lot more damage potential with the Crusader. When what is it with the Headsman's Mark? It's +2 against Titanic to the wound that he deals.
No, it's +2 damage to.
That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
But that turns your Avenger Gatling cannon into a shredding machine.
Yeah, it's a 4 damage weapon against Titanic units.
Yeah, and I think the rapid fire battle cannon is 2 plus D3 or
2 plus D3.
And then the thermal cannon, which is what you took, is 2 plus D6.
Yeah. So my first round opponent, he was playing something that's probably going to be new meta. He was playing 3 Crusaders, and he decided to go with 3 Lemon Rust Punishers as tank commanders, and he also had an Astropath. So 7 units. And if you're playing ITC, that is a death blow to any opponent trying to get kill more. It pretty much denies you kill more every turn, and you're going to have to defeat them on objectives. But me, being the clever player that I was, decided to go with all killing secondaries.
Strategy
is like I would like to call it. The match wasn't actually that bad. I ended up losing a 20-29 game. Only thing I can say that I should have done right off the bat, I should have killed one of his knights turn 1. I think turn 1 I ended up destroying a Lemon Rust and putting just a little bit of fire into his knights. I kind of learned from the match that I should just bait him out. With my Manticores, I can shoot onto other tables in the room, so I don't have to worry about his short range. And if I'm out of LOS, I can just pelt one of the knights and then have my Crusader finish it and then take down his other 2 at my leisure. Had a great opponent. His name was Nick. He was a former GT winner, so it was funny. My first round, I was fighting someone who does this all the time.
Oh, and I think that one of the things we have to look at is that a lot of the people at this tournament were either veterans of this format or they were, kind of big names in the community at this one.
Yeah.
So you died horribly, but you died horribly to legends, so it's okay.
Pretty much.
It was a saga worth talking about.
All right, Foster, let's hit him with your second game.
Oh, you mean hit them with how I got hit by Goat Boy in the face?
Yes.
Now, I will say this. This was a really fun match. I got to play against, if I were playing Chaos, this is probably the way that I would do it. I faced off against Goat Boy. He's a great guy. I love fighting against him. 3 Lord Discordants, 3 Mauler Fiends, 3 Venom Crawlers, Aramon, Demon Prince, Chaos Space Marines, which my first opponent also played with Chaos Space Marines as well, which I was happy to see. Yeah, it was Red Corsairs with Aramon to support them, and we had a mosh pit in the middle of the battlefield, and that was where I learned one of the big weaknesses of my list, which is that D3 damage that makes me so sad. It doesn't matter if you hit your opponent, what is it, like 36 times with re-rolling 1s in both hits and wounds, if you're going to be rolling 1s for damage.
You need to roll 6s. Battle plan, roll 6s.
Right. No, it was a great game, like I said. It was just one of those that with the Mauler Fiends coming up and the Venom Crawlers supporting them and the Lord Discordance there, it was it was too much armor with too much damage coming in. Yeah, every time I fought him and he punched me with a Mauler Fiend, I would lose a Custode. Same thing with the Venom Crawlers. It was a lot of damage coming down the pipe, and the Lord Discordants just they attack so much. It just so much. They did the boogie woogie oogie on top of my body. In fact, I think we ended it about turn 4.
Oh wow.
Was probably when everything was apparent as to who was going to win.
Yeah.
So,
all right. My turn 2. Sorry, my round 2. Kind of going back to that Texas meta. I was playing against a player who had 2 Crusaders this time, and he went old school and brought the Castellan back from the grave. He also had 2 armatures, and that was his entire list. Only 5 models. Like I said, for the ITC format, this really, really hurts players who are trying to get kill more, because it's almost impossible for you to kill more when he has such a small amount of units on the field.
well, it's also really hard to kill anything after you've killed those armatures.
Yeah. But I decided to do what my army does best. When I made this list, originally it was to be able to kill a Castellan in turn 1. That was my big concern. I was crunching out numbers to make sure that happened. And I was like, well, if that's the reason I play this, I might as well do it. So turn 1, also something to note, they were playing chapter approved 2018 deployment. So if you rolled and you won, you would choose the deployment, and then your opponent would deploy first and decide if they want to go first. So I continuously lost this roll, I think, every game. So my opponent would always choose the map, and I would deploy first and go first. So I decided to target his Castellan and kill it. I was playing Old Grudges with my Master of Ordnance, giving me rerolls to wound against 1 unit in his army. I decided to target his Castellan. As my secondary, I chose what's the secondary power? The one that kills that you target a unit in
Was it Big Game Hunter?
No.
Titan Slayer?
No. Kingslayer.
Kingslayer.
Yeah. All right. Gonna edit that out. All right.
Random word Slayer.
I decided to target his Castellan as my Kingslayer target. So he's my Old Grudges target, and I'm going to get secondary points for killing him. That should max me out. Turn 1, my Manticores open up, doing devastating damage to him, and then I finish him off with my Crusader. So turn 1, he's down a Castellan, and a lot of my opponents had never seen the Manticores, so they didn't realize exactly how much damage they can do. And with me being a Catechin, I'm just re-rolling the dice. I'm getting 11 shots, 9 shots, re-rolling the damage. So even with a 4-up invul save, I'm just pounding them.
You know those people weren't playing 5th edition if they don't recognize that the power those bring.
Pretty much. Like most of my opponents did, they just laughed off the Manticore until after turn 1. So turn 1, destroyed the Castellan, and then I just had 2 knights to contend with. I dominated with board control. All of my guards, they moved out, jumped on objectives. I decided to choose a King of the Hill, which was a new objective for me. Basically, you need to have 2 units in the middle of the map, and for every turn they sit wholly within 6 inches of the middle of the map, you got one battle point. So guard and my Bullgrins ran up there, and the Bullgrins are pretty much invincible, with my Psyker giving them +1 to their saves. So they're just sitting in the middle of the map racking up secondaries. The next turn, I target one of his other knights, take him down. I score points for behind enemy lines with my Vulture. My Vulture really didn't have any targets to shoot at, so he just ran and flew in the backfield and gained secondary points from there. Also, I would like to note, I forgot to mention, the last wound I got on his Castellan was actually from my Master of Ordnance. I did the one-shot Master of Ordnance ability. He got off 5 shots, hit 3 times, wounded 3 times, and my opponent failed his saves, and the Master of Ordnance took down a big boy by himself.
Nice.
Took down another knight, and pretty much turn 3, it was over. He had one armature left, so we called the game there. So I ended up scoring 34 points to his 8. So it was a massive victory for me. Bully Mike was a great opponent. Like I said, didn't have any issues. He took it on the chin, and I bought him a beer afterwards.
That's true. Well, that didn't let us to our last match of the day. I got relegated to the last table.
The very last table.
The very, very last table. Where I fought against a Black Templars player, oddly enough.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this, the army was gorgeous, had a fun game. He brought 2 repulsors, he brought 2 squads of the new suppressors, he brought the plasma bearing inceptors, he brought a lot of the units from the new Shadow Spear box, actually. I want to say it was 2 or 3, maybe 4 squads of infiltrators, 2 squads of intercessors with Power Fist, a couple lieutenants, one of them with the 4-up invuln save relic.
Maximizing his box value.
Do what?
Maximizing his box value.
Yeah, pretty much. And then 2 repulsors. And again, those repulsors really made me question my life decisions with wardens, to be honest with you. Well, like I said, it was one of those. We ended up. I told him I just essentially want to fight you in the center of the map, and so he said okay, which I was confused by. But we had a good slugfest in the middle. His veteran Black Templar intercessors have a surprising amount of attacks. Unfortunately for them, they went against units that were essentially Terminators with power swords. Got stabbed a lot, but it was tough taking down the repulsors. I think that my opponent, had he flew the repulsors up onto the terrain and just kind of pelted me with fire, there would have been nothing that I could have done about it. Mm-hmm. But again, it's one of those that towards the end of a tournament, you've been standing up all day, we're all tired, we're all exhausted. The tactics sometimes go out the window.
Sometimes you just want to see blood.
Yeah, pretty much. And blood he got. I think that it was a turn 5 or 6 tabling. Got quite a few points, but like I said, overall it was a great match, good opponent. Army was beautifully painted, very, very Templar-esque, if I do say so myself. Mm-hmm. One of his tanks actually had candles on it, which I thought was one of the most 40K things I've ever seen. Brother, do not forget to light the candles on the tank.
Incense makes everything better.
Pretty much. Yeah, that was my last match. Good stuff.
All right. So the opposite of his last table, I was playing on table 1, though I don't think it really made a difference.
No.
So I was playing against Steven, and this was absolutely my best match of all of the tournament. We were so much alike in a lot of things. We ended up talking for a lot of the game, stopping us playing and just actually talking. But with 3-hour rounds, it wasn't a big deal. I decided to focus on what my list does best. Same thing. I think I chose the exact same secondaries for this match. Run in the middle. I would like to tell you all. Guess what I was playing against? Good guess. Come on, you can do it.
Can I? It was it. Was it knights?
Yes, I was playing against a Castellan, a Crusader, but this time a Gallant, and he was supported by the Loyal 32 with two mortar squads, and the is this the Rusty 17?
Yep.
So and he had two Vanguard. So yeah, so it was more knights. And the one thing that I'm good at killing is knights. So turn one, I threw everything I had at killing his Castellan, and mission accomplished. So score max points for Kingslayer again. Yeah, flood the middle and decide to mess up his backfield with my Vulture and my Scions. My Scions were a key unit in pretty much all of my games. Them being able to just drop down on an objective, hold it, and force my opponent to have to deal with them. And with their 4-up save, 3-up in cover, me giving them a +1 with a take cover ability, that stratagem, they are a nuisance and they can kill other chaff. Pretty much I killed his Castellan. Tied up his Gallant with my Bulgrins, and then just wiped down his big targets slowly one by one. It was a great game and a huge victory for me. I ended up winning 33-7. It wasn't much he could do once I took that midfield and started destroying targets at my will. But it was a great guy, great game. He's actually going to come down to Houston to play me again. He was super fun, and it was a great way to end the weekend. Well, in Saturday night.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of funny. When we think about tournaments, we think about who we want to play, what we want to fight. For me, I didn't want to fight any more Chaos. I definitely didn't want to fight Gene Stealer Colts. But we're driving back, and Kuyo looks at me and goes, I don't want to fight any more Knights. And my first thought is, but you're killing them. Take the free points. But that does lead us into day 2. Came back in early. We came back in to fight. And my first opponent was Dark Eldar. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things I love about Custodes is the feeling of being... Because you got to realize, my army is like 26 to 28 models. That's it. So every man's a hero. And can I tell you that my shield captain, I tested something out in that last match. I was like, I got to change something up if I'm ever going to hope to win. And my shield captain was a true hero in that game. Shield captain with a 2-up, 3-up, 5-up, feel no pain. I gave him Victor of the Blood games because I knew that he was just going to Agents of Vect away my ability to use the Vexilla. And no joke, that one, I must have been rolling super hot because that one shield captain took on an entire side of the board by himself.
Nice.
Yep, he was killing Ravagers left and right. He was taking down Venoms. He was shooting down Witches and fighting them in close combat and killing them. And he survived that game with 1 HP. No, actually, he died. But he survived 6 turns with one. He survived 6 turns by himself.
On your heart.
Yeah. This is like, oh my God. So it was good stuff. I ended up taking Headhunter because he had a lot of characters. Took my normal Engineers, and I'll be honest with you, Engineers has been one of my magic bullets when playing as Custodes because they are so hard to kill, and you can rack up those points very, very quickly. And then I took behind enemy lines because I knew that I could get back there and I would just be a nuisance in the enemy portion. And my opponent was a great guy. We had a good game. I could tell he was getting frustrated with, having to try to kill Custodes with splinter cannons and poison weapons, but mass out firepower against T5, two up save guys with no AP on the weapon is going to be a frustrating day for you. So,
yeah.
But like I said, it was good stuff. Really enjoyed the match. I'm learning very quickly though that when I play my foot custodes, that if something is flying away from me, I'm never going to catch it unless they want me to. Come back. The Emperor's Grace wills it. Now, I will say this, though. I think the undersung hero of a Custodes list is the Bolter portion. I was killing, with the rerolls, the one on both hit and wounds, I was actually killing Venoms and forcing his guys to dump out of the Venoms with basic Bolter fire because they are -1/2 damage. Mm-hmm. So just 3 had to go through and a Venom would go pop.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Yep. Good stuff.
All right. My fourth round opponent, I was playing Colin. He's a part of the FNP Pro team here in Houston or Cyprus or wherever you want to say. Down here, Houston. I came in this match and I think I was placed 15th or something like that in a tournament. So I was gradually getting up there. Was playing against Colin, and he, like all my other players, he was using a Crusader, and a Warden. And he was supported by Scutari, and he decided to go with a battalion of Blood Angels. So 2 Smash Captains and a bunch of Scouts. So I decided to play tactically against him. Turn 1, I got first turn. He measured and made sure that he was, I think, 49 inches away from my Crusader to being in the game. So instead of walking towards him and getting in range of his firepower, I walked away from him. I walked towards scouts and other units like that and just laid down firepower on them with my Crusader, and instead took my Manticores and opened up on his Warlord. And I want to say the first turn I did like 12 damage to him or something like that. It was something brutal, that first volley of fire. He ended up coming at me on his turn, shooting away. Second turn, I brought down his Warlord, and then with the remaining firepower, really put a hurting on another knight. I think, his other knight was down to like 3 wounds, and he actually got in combat in the middle. Turn 3 comes, and this is where I make a major mistake. Turn 3 comes in. He has 1 knight that's wounded already. I think he's down to maybe 17 wounds. The knight in the middle is down to 3 wounds. He launched into combat, killed Strachan, and I was in combat with a company commander. So I was like, okay, well, I need to bring up some fire lanes, go ahead and kill him. I also had my Vindicare. My Vindicare was doing D3 damage every turn, whittling away at his forces. I brought in my Scions prematurely. Before moving my company commander or moving anything else, I brought in my Scions, and I was trying to move my priest just to make sure that he was in range of smites, and also just get him closer to objective. My opponent reminded me, the phase is over with. I mean, you bring in your reserves at the end of the turn, and that is totally correct. That was on me. So because I brought in my Scions, I didn't move my company commander out, so I couldn't finish the last 3 wounds on his Warden. So combat phase comes. He kills my company commander, gets into combat with my bubble of assassins and guardsmen that were down there, ends up killing my Crusader with his Crusader, and it pretty much went downhill from there. It was my match to win. Everything was in my favor, but one small mistake of bringing in my Scions before I moved 6 inches out of combat cost me the game, because I had at least 4 or 5 units that could have taken the last 3 wounds from him. But after that, that was game.
Well, I think the big thing here to take away, though, is that you mentioned it yourself. You made a mistake, and I think the biggest thing is to learn from it. Just move forward from there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not too salty, but it's just that was my victory. pretty much until that turn, everything was going in my favor. I would have taken out that last knight and just steamrolled the last one who was already hurt. But chalk it up to being a noob.
Yeah, well, not going to be a blood clot for too much longer there, brother.
So I ended up losing that match 22-33.
Oh. Yeah, it is sometimes that linchpin unit that'll kind of turn that tide. So, speaking of which, do you remember when I told you there were 2 armies I didn't want to fight?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have fun with the Gene Stealers?
Fun is a subjective term.
Did you have more fun than you ever had before? Did you gladly do it every other week?
Now, here's the thing. My opponent was great. I liked fighting with my opponent. We had a manly discussion about our beards, but I do not want to fight his army again. I would rather be punched in the gut and then kicked in the face by Chuck Norris than fight that army again.
Beautiful.
So it is one of those. I chose my typical, engineers. Went with Headhunter because Gene Stealer Colts have like 900 different characters. And went with Reaper. So every 20 models I killed, I got a victory point. Killing the models wasn't the problem. It was the insane amount of striking power that they have. I want to say turn 2, before I could really start racking up engineers points, he dropped in with the 5-man biker squad and the Jackal or whatever their HQ choice is on the bike, and he unloaded on me with 5d6 melt-to-charge shots that hit on 2s and wound on 2s in my backfield. So literally a 75-point unit killed my 155-point unit in cover. Just nothing I could do about it. And then he popped up Kellermorphs on the opposite side and brought down my squad to 1 man. And just started. I mean, he was shooting people left and right from all sides of the field. I'm having to bolt him down with the bolters before I can get into close combat. I then went over to fight with the Kellermorphs and hoping that I could just kill them both with the one Custode, and that didn't happen. Killed one of them, and then he pistol arrowed me in close combat to death. So that was unfortunate. And then just held my backfield, and there was nothing I could do about it. End up dropping my wardens off to the side and start clearing to the side, and he nearly killed my one of my Dawn Eagle jet bike guys with 1 mental onslaught, and then nearly killed Trajan the same way. Took both of them down to like 1 HP.
Mind bullets are real.
Mental onslaught. Like I said, my opponent's a great guy. Love fighting with him. That ability, I will say it now. I'll say it forever. That ability is broken. even after the nerf. I hate that ability. It's ridiculous in the hands of Gene Stealer Colt. I don't know why anybody thought that was a good idea. Mm-hmm. This is even after I saved a couple of these mortal wounds with the 6-up feel no pain against psychic abilities. Still almost killed Trajan. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, he just the popping up everywhere, the throwing of the melta bombs, because it wasn't just in one area. He threw melta bombs onto my 9-man warden squad. I just rolled really, really hot with the 4-up invuln saves. Popped up in the middle and threw grenades onto my other warden squad, and then hand flamered them. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know what I was thinking in this instance, but I took my last 2 wardens in that squad and I charged those Gene Stealer cultists with the hand flamers.
Because you wanted them to have a quick, glorious death rather than drawing it out.
I think that might have been it. And the funny part was, I actually got into combat with them.
Oh, nice.
How many wounds were left?
I didn't take any. Yeah, I mean, they still died, don't get me wrong, but It was one of those. I was like, surely after I made this stupid decision to charge him, surely they'll be dead. Nope, we made it in and we actually did a lot of damage. The big thing for me though, outside of just the absurd firepower, was I didn't realize how far you could actually have acolytes and other units like that jump in front of wounds for your guy. Because I had Trajan fighting his patriarch, and quite literally, Trajan wounded him to death, but he was able to do lookout sirs essentially from other combats. And I was just like, but they're nowhere near you. So I'm just assuming that they felt really bad that the guy was going to get hit, died from their sadness, and thus gave him a Harry Potter-esque psychic shield.
Fall on your sword for me, peasant.
Pretty much.
I mean, that is why Gene Stealer calls the ridges on their heads. You think it is because of Gene Stealers. They're actually all the chosen ones.
Oh, well, there you go. But yeah, no, it's like I said, I learned a lot from that match. It's just so difficult when your opponent has like 130 models versus your 26.
Yeah.
And those 100, like I think he had 4 snipers. And he had 3 Keller morphs. And I was just like, it's so much shooting. I don't even know what all of it did because he shot me with so many different things.
You just knew it killed you.
Yeah, I knew it killed me. Like, he was shooting me with mortars. He was shooting me with las guns. He was shooting me with mining lasers and grenade launchers and psychic bullets in all different flavors of the rainbow and multi-lasers and grenades and shotguns and cows and B-52 bombers, or I don't know.
Yeah, that seems appropriate.
Yeah. So I ended up losing that last match. It ended up putting me at 2-3 for the tournament. I was off by 1 point. And it was one of those things that I feel like if I'd played my tactics a little bit differently, if I'd gone ahead and I don't know. I don't know how I would have played this differently, to be honest with you. Losing engineers in the first round. Actually, no, I do know how I would have played this differently. The Alamo GT, for any of y'all who don't know, had a special secondary called Remember the Alamo. And for every 500 points that you lost, you got 1 victory point. If I had taken that instead of engineers, I would have won that match. Because it would have put me ahead by 1 point.
Could have won by losing.
Yeah, I essentially winning by losing, yeah. I think that was my one downfall. I should have known that because Gene Stealer Colts hit so hard, I was going to lose a lot of guys. So I might as well have just fallen on my sword and reaped the benefits of suicide.
We here at the Empress Rejects do not condone suicide.
No, we do not.
Unless you're a Gene Stealer.
Then you should probably die because you gave away the greatest gift, the love of the Emperor.
Yeah, abomination.
Scum.
But yeah, I think that's what I would have done differently. But you had a very tough 5th match, if I remember correctly.
For my 5th match, I was like, you know what? I want to play anything but knights. I just want to mix it up. It's not that, I can't defeat them. I just want to play something different. But I also don't want to play flyer spam because I hate fighting against flyers.
Was it flyers and knights?
No, it was just flyers. I fought against an opponent who had, what is this? 7 flyers, I believe.
Yeah, it was like 6 or 7 Eldar flyers.
Yeah. So, he had 3 Razor Wing jet fighters and 3 Crimson Hunters and 1 Hemlock Wraith fighter. So, me having majority guard in my list, I'm BS 4+. So with that -1, I'm hitting on fives, and with some of his units, I'm -2. So I'm hitting on sixes, and he also has the ability to make me additional negative to hit. So some of his units, I could just not be able to hit them at all. Um, so it was interesting for me to figure out how I was gonna do this match. I think my biggest mistake was with my secondaries. I chose really bad secondaries. I think I chose Big Game Hunter, thinking that I was going to be destroying his flyers, which in all reality I should have just ignored it. If I can control the ground, who cares about the air? And the fighters are better at killing big tough units, not really killing a lot of small models. I also took King of the Hill, but for this match there was a obstruction in the middle, so it was hard for me to get wholly within six with all of my units to be able to hold it. Um, and with him navigating his flyers, they usually were in the middle, and I couldn't get around them, so I couldn't get King of the Hill. I don't think I had scored 1 point of King of the Hill. And I also took Butcher's Bill, which it was a semi good idea to take. He had a lot of small units, so it wasn't impossible for me to get that. So turn one goes off. I choose one of his biker units as my old grudges target. I ask my opponent, which one do you dislike the most? So my manticores open up and wipe them out one turn. I also like to say the player that I was playing was another guy out here from Houston. I usually see him at the Saturday RTTs that we go to. This is our first time actually playing, and I want to say the last 3 RTTs I went to, he was either first or second in it. So
Yeah, no, he's been mopping the floor with people in the area.
yeah, so this was like his last battle using the current Yvrain units. So he was going Dark Eldar, and Yvrain models. So basically, he was trying to take down my Bullgrins. He went gangbusters. My Bullgrins were in the middle, trying to get that King of the Hill ability, which in retrospect I probably should have just charged at his castle, or given them the dagger and let them outflank to get closer to his units. And I probably should have chosen the secondary, the Seize Ground. I think Seize Ground secondary, where you gain 1 point for every objective you held at the end of the game. Because for this mission, I was getting the bonus point from turn 3 onward. The bonus point was the whole 5 objectives. I basically took all my guardsmen, ran into ruins near objectives, and held those objectives. He had to fly around and try to get LOS when he could. I was making 4-up cover saves, and something ridiculous I did with my Bullgrin, since he was trying to kill them so badly. My Bullgrin had a 2-up armor save because of their brute shields. Because of their slab shields. They were in cover, so that was a +1 to their armor save. I used the take cover stratagem from the Imperial Guard decks, so they gave them an additional +1, and then I gave them additional +1 from the psychic ability for my psyker. So they now had a negative 1 up save. So when he shot me with his flyers that had a -3 to save weapon, I was still taking 2-ups.
Take that, Xenos.
Yeah. So I had a almost invincible wall of muscle in the middle of the field, holding one objective and just getting shot at by his entire army. My Vindicare made it so that any of his HQs that stuck their head out was just getting popped. I even shot the cat lady once and brought her down to 2 wounds, I believe, but he retreated her back so I couldn't shoot her. I killed a warlock. It was pretty much in my favor, but I really messed up on the secondaries. End of the game, I only got 4 points out of a total 12 possible points for secondaries, just because I chose the wrong ones, and I was also winning. Uh, well, for I was winning in the primaries because I was getting the bonus pretty much the entire game. But he was also getting his secondaries because he had gangbusters. By the end of the game, he had maxed out gangbusters, maxed out Titan Slayer, not Titan Slayer, maxed out King Slayer, and he had recon. He ended up getting 3 out of the 4 possible for recon. And the last turn of the game, he didn't get his recon point. So we tallied everything up, and it ended up being a 26-26 draw. He didn't move. He didn't move his flyers to get the last recon point, and I chose really bad secondaries and only got 4. So we ended up tying the game. So it was a great opponent. Not a list that I particularly wanted to fight, but in the future, I know how to handle it. I think I'm just going to ignore the flyers altogether and not even try to deal with them.
Yeah, because if you kill all the guys on the ground, the flyers just fly away.
Yeah, fly away now.
Yep.
So I ended up finishing the tournament, as Thanos would say, perfectly balanced, as all things should be. I had 2 wins, 2 losses, and 1 draw.
Yep.
But did you properly tally how many guys you lost to where you lost exactly half?
Yes, let's say I did. Most of my guardsmen just running around the map, hiding in ruins. So I'm pretty sure enough of them died from the skies falling down on them.
For some reason, I just imagine Kuyo's guardsmen yelling like Sly Marlowe, "Ah!" as they're running through the map.
So I think I ended up being 40th place out of 86, and Foster was 40.
I want to say 43rd or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Not too far behind, but far enough behind that I must reap my vengeance.
Yes, he was a loser boy. Loser boy!
Well, because of this catastrophic loss, I've gone ahead and actually melted down all of my custodes in penance for what has happened today. And we'll be bringing the Space Wolves to the next RTT.
Oh, I thought you were going Chaos.
That was a trick.
You lied to me.
Yep. The route will work with deception when necessary. Maybe.
Well, speaking of chaos, our next section is going to be on chaos after we take a quick break. And we're back from our break. All right. After the shenanigans at Alamo GT, Foster is enamored with how good chaos is now. And we're just going to do a quick discussion on chaos and the different breeds of chaos that we think are going to pop up in the meta.
Yep. Looking at it, it's, what I like about the Chaos Codex is it's versatile. It doesn't seem like you're weighed down too much at the moment with how things go. I know that we wouldn't even ever think about saying that like 2 minutes ago, but here we are.
And I'll also like to think, I'll also like to add that we're talking about chaos in a faction, not just Chaos Space Marines. The player who actually won first place at Alamo GT was a Thousand Suns player who was utilizing a lot of small groups of Rubric Marines, which Rubric Marines seem to be new meta.
Yeah. Beware all is dust and 2-up saves. No, it's just what I'm saying is that they seem like they very much like an Imperial Soup. they've got a lot of different ways to come in and smack you in the face.
True. So what was the big chaos unit that was giving you a lot of problems in your games? I think it was the Mauler Fiend, right?
So it wasn't just the Mauler Fiend. It was the Tide of Metal that was the Lord Discordants, Venom Crawlers, and Mauler Fiends. The combination of the three was devastating, along with, say, Warp Time and backup from... I didn't even get to the back of his army. I got blocked in by Lord Discordants and Mauler Fiends and Venom Crawlers because they've got so many attacks. It just hurts so much.
But aren't they only hitting on like 4-ups or something like that?
Oh, not when they're next to a Lord Discordant, they're not.
Okay, yeah, he gives them +1.
Yeah. Hitting on 3s. Mauler Fiends have like... just closed it out too. I want to say they have anywhere between 9 to 10 attacks. I think it's 4 with the Crushing Fists and 6 with the Lasher Tendrils.
Okay. It's enough where you don't really miss that. You don't feel bad that you miss a few times because everything you still have hit like the truck and you're good to go.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, the funny thing is that he backed them up with a Greater Possessed, so I don't think it really played too much of a role at the very front because I don't think he was able to get too far into the melee, so as it were. Mm-hmm. But if he was, his Mauler Fiend would have been hitting at, I want to say, Strength 14. Venom Crawlers would be hitting at Strength 9. Yeah, it would have been a bad day all around. And while against me, that wouldn't have changed things too much. Venom Crawlers would still be wounding me on 3s. Mauler Fiends would still be wounding me on 2s. Lord Discordants would be getting a slight boost, and depending on what they're hitting me with, but that would actually make a huge difference against the menagerie of knight players that you went up against. Because now those Venom Crawlers are wounding knights on 3s instead of 4s.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it was just one of those things that really kind of punched me in the face that I was not expecting. Because you never hear about how good the Mauler Fiend is. Since it's been released, you've never heard about how good the Mauler Fiend is.
Because up until fairly recently, it had nothing to really make it that good without a lot of help.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying, is that like now it's like, oh, the Lord Discordant along with Mauler Fiends, along with Venom Crawlers, makes for a very terrifying wall of metal that you're going to have a hard time with.
The Lord Discordant is a great force multiplier on top of himself being a pretty badass fighter in combat.
He is every bit as good a buff as he is a pain in the word to build.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like he was playing the list as Red Corsairs, so he's got a lot of CP to throw around for additional things because he's got 3 different detachments, and from there he's also getting to, I think it's their thing is that they get to advance and charge still. Yep, They can advance and charge. Yeah. So a lot faster than they look, and they will punch you in the face pretty hard. So,
and was he supporting them with Havocs, or did he have?
No, it was basic Chaos Space Marines with the Reaper chain cannons and mine bullets from Ahriman, which is how he killed Trajan.
Gotcha.
He mine bulleted Trajan, and he got 2 super smites off with Ahriman and the Demon Prince.
Yeah, we are seeing Ahriman pretty much as a staple in every Chaos list. He's doing terrible things with those mine bullets.
He's fast, he's durable, he gives the buffs, he gives hurt, everything you could want. It's only a matter of time before I feel despair when they nerf him.
I think that it's not just his offensive prowess, it's also his ability to support pretty much everything in Chaos by throwing out death hexes. It's by throwing out
warp time.
Yeah, because the way that he killed my shield captain, my super shield captain, was he literally death hexed away his 3-up invuln save.
Your armor means nothing.
yeah, your armor means nothing, and he punched him in the face a lot. So a 2-up, 5-up means nothing when you get punched in the face with -3 and -4 power attacks consistently.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I think that was the one of the things that gave me the biggest hard time. The Dreadclaw, it has an auto hit radius flamer.
Yeah, the Dreadclaw is a little hidden gem. It's on paper, it's not that good. Okay, it's a drop pod that is like 3 times as expensive or 4 times as expensive as a normal drop pod,
Mm-hmm.
but it has a larger carrying capacity, and it has the ability to flame everything nearby it. I believe it's 6 inch. It auto hits everything nearby it.
Yep.
And it's a pistol, so you can also do it inside of combat.
Well, and the other thing that you're forgetting too is, if I remember correctly, it flies.
Yeah, it flies.
So unlike the drop pod where it's like, yep, I dropped it down and now I'm going to leave it there for the rest of the game. This thing, if you leave it alone, can fly over to your troops, hit them with the super pistol flamer, fly over to another set of troops, and do it every round, during that game until you kill it. So he made me cry, quite a bit. And then I think Demon Princes in general, they're going to give you a hard time. Yep. I got to see them in 2 different flavors, and one of them came over and beat me in the face.
They're great as ever.
Yeah, they are. Now, here's one thing that really got me. The Butcher Cannon Array Deradeo is very, very good. Butcher Cannon Arrays, if they just kill something, is -2 to the leadership, which even puts a hurt on Custodes even. And then the other thing was the C-Beam Cannon. Like, parking them across the map, giving him plus, I want to say 2 or 4, because he was over 48 inches away from me, to his attack profile, and he killed one thing, and now it exploded those guys everywhere. Was a pretty big thing. And the Reaper Chain Cannon, I think we talked about this in one of our earlier casts. Marcus Slanesh Reaper Chain Cannon Havocs are just, they're ridiculous.
A terrible amount of firepower coming at you.
Yeah, with Death to the False Emperor and Veterans of the Long War, there's so much coming down the pipe. And you're like, okay, I somehow survive the first volley. And then they go, oh, but we're going to endless cacophony you. And then you crawl into a ball, hoping. Sorry, I said Veterans of the Long War. I mean, Death to the False Emperor. That I'm redacting that because it doesn't do anything. But Veterans of the Long War is where it's at. That right there is the key to their success. Just so many shots wounding on things that you wouldn't expect them to. Because the strength 5 versus my T5 is normally 4s, but now they're wounding on 3s. Hitting on 3s, it's just so much firepower coming down the pipe.
Yeah, re-rolling 1s because they're always in range of a lord. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, or they're in range of Abaddon, and then you cry even more.
Yeah. So
it's actually a very uplifting thing being a long-time Chaos player to see so much good synergy in the Chaos list, which is buffs with positional and being able to have good firepower to go with it, when a major downside to Chaos as compared to their Imperial counterparts has been the Imperials have had the much better buff auras, but now it's starting to go the other way.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to deny the buffing power of Chaos right now, and I do think it is interesting. Some of their abilities that only affect Imperium stuff, Well, if you actually think about it,
Most players are Imperium, so it's hey.
Yeah, well, half the armies in the game are Imperial. Like, literally half the codexes are an Imperial codex.
Yeah.
Even better with Soup being so prominent, it means you're even far more likely to face at least a few Imperial units.
Exactly.
So something else I wanted to touch on is the Chaos list that won, the Zinch list that won, Mono Zinch. No other influence of Chaos units, just straight Zinch units.
The
And
Zangors are great. Psychic powers are great.
yeah.
Thousand Suns are just in generally great. If you can fork out the price for those Zangors, they add up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Well,
the one
especially, I was going to say, especially because I think he brought in, like, what was it, 59 Zangors?
yeah, I think it was two really big groups of 29 and 30.
Yeah.
But one of the cool things about Thousand Suns, the Rubik Marines, they fit so well in the ITC format. If you're taking a Thousand Suns group, putting them inside of a ruin, okay, now your opponent can only shoot them if they have indirect or if they're like directly behind them where there's an opening. And if they're shooting them, they're firing against a unit that's a T5 and has a 2-up save.
Yeah. And even if you bring in something like a Manticore that can shoot them, they're still going to get a 4-up save against the Manticore, or against a Basilisk, they're still getting their 5-up invuln save.
Yeah. And then if you're shooting at them with something that's only 1 damage, it's an additional +1 to their armor save.
Yeah. So Space Marine Intercessors, 2-up still.
Yeah.
So
So with them just sitting on the objective, you're gonna have a hell of a time of digging them out. And go ahead and send out a lot of these multiple smaller units and just flood the board. And most people don't have the tools to deal with that, especially when you have Zangors and other stuff coming in, doing a Dark Crystal, getting on into your army. It's a really hard matchup. And on paper, it just looks like, oh, he's just got a couple small units, nothing with their smite ability, and just because you can't dig them out, they're really good in this format.
yeah.
And you can't underestimate the Inferno Bolter.
True.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that it seems like Thousand Suns were actually made for this format.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm actually surprised we're not seeing more Death Guard as well, considering that their abilities are different, but to an extent similar.
Well,
They just.
I was gonna say that could just be the tournament that we went to. I mean, looking at the standings, first place is 1,000 Suns, fourth place is Chaos, seventh place you got another Chaos player. They are doing well. 15th place you got another Zinch player. 17th place Chaos. Like they are are representing themselves. I don't know how many Nurgle players were there. I remember seeing at least 3, but it also could have been luck of the draw or the general themselves. But I think they're in a good place where they can represent themselves with different flavors of chaos. There's no longer just one chaos list that's dominating or one build that is the go build.
Yeah.
We're not stuck in the terror days of just hell turkeys.
Yeah, because if you look at like tournaments just from across the board, you're seeing Zinch coming up. You're seeing basic Chaos Marines coming up, or Chaos Soup coming up. You're seeing demons everywhere.
Yeah, it's just a chaos demon list that's dominating. So different flavors of chaos are doing well, and it gives people the opportunity to play with models that they enjoy, and not just the cookie cutter. Oh, I need to throw 120 cultists on the field, and that's what I'm going to use. Actually, there's less and less cultists and more standard chaos marine bodies, which that would be crazy to say a year ago.
Yeah. I feel bad for all the people who went out and bought like 180 cultist bodies, and now it's, oh well, that's no longer meta. In fact, that is terrible.
Well, I wouldn't say it's terrible.
It's terrible. Don't lie.
It is no more terrible than Chaos usually has to deal with when they need chaff, because Chaos has never actually been great at chaff. We just had lots of it.
Yeah.
It's now more pricey, so you can't build your list entirely around it.
And I think this also kind of goes to an idea of, play what you like. At some point, the wheel's going to turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think about it that way. If you liked cultists, well, you're not going to. They were good for a while. Now they're not. And I guarantee you in a couple years, they're going to be really good again.
Maybe sooner if Forge World would get off their butts and go ahead and update the Renegade Codex.
One day.
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting for a general overhaul of the Forge World stuff in general.
Yes, can we please have the unmounted Earthshakers not be more expensive than Basilisks? Thank you.
Whoa. You are paying more points, good sir, for the honor of not moving.
Which you weren't going to do anyway, admittedly, but...
Well,
does it matter, though?
Well, would you all like to add anything else to this chaos talk?
Other than the fact that I look forward to actually playing it again, it'll be different. I've been playing a lot of Guard recently. It'll be refreshing to be able to use Marines and expect them to actually hopefully pull their weight.
Yeah. I will say this. The match I played with Goat Boy, I tried for 2 rounds to shake a group off of a building top, and I was unable to. While he was spraying me down with chain cannon fire. So it's the new Reaper chain cannon is amazing. I will say that. I think that it's really good that I've always been under the assumption that Chaos would be a bit more offensive, and this really kind of matches their aesthetic. Short range, get in their face. Well, shorter range, I should say. But just spray and pray tactics, 8 shots is a lot. There's no getting around that. I will leave this with everybody, though. I'm truly impressed with Chaos. I really am. The 2 Chaos players that I got to fight were great opponents. I got to see a lot of really cool tactics coming out of there. The Purge were pretty awesome. The Chain Lord was devastating. I knew it was coming. There was nothing I could do about it. And the wall of metal, the wall of demonic Dinobot metal was there's no real words for it from a guy who loves to play tanks except for beautiful.
All right. Well, we're going to close out with that. We have been the Emperor's Rejects. Thank you for listening. Make sure to like and subscribe. And as always, the Emperor protects.
Later, y'all.
See ya.